Now that we set up a Windows 7 virtual machine, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to set up a Windows Server virtual machine. Again, you're going to get some software updates. We're just going to remind you later. If you get any other pop-ups, again, just go ahead and close them out. Yes, we already have one virtual machine, but it's a Windows 7 virtual machine. We want to actually set up servers, so let's go ahead and create a new virtual machine. Again, if you have the physical disk, you'd stick it in and you'd select the first option. I don't have a physical disk, I only have an ISO, so I'm going to choose the second option. Most of the time you're going to be using the second option, ISO. There's not a lot of physical disks, at least in the classroom, because they get damaged and they get broken. It's a lot easier just to do it off of a ISO. Browse to wherever you have your Windows Server 2008 disk or 2012 disk, depending on what class you're in. Select it, and you can either double click on it or just click OK, it doesn't really matter. Notice it shows Windows Server 2008 detected. We're going to go ahead and click on Next. Notice again here we get the same windows. We're not going to do a product key. We're going to make sure that we select Standard Edition of Server 2008. You can set a username, you can set a password. Most of the time, for a lot of my classes, I say don't do it. We can do this later. We're going to go ahead and click on Next. Notice we didn't enter a product key, so we'll get this warning. That's normal, that's fine. Yes, we want to continue. This is super critical, especially with servers. We're going to denote them, because we're going to have multiple servers, we want to be able to denote which server we're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name to Server 2008A, because I'm going to get a secondary server coming down later, so I want to make sure that I can denote which server is which. From here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. Oh, actually, I do want to change the location. Again, you want to be able to save this to where you can use it. Especially in the classroom settings, you're not going to be able to save it at its default location. So we're going to go click on Browse. Most of the time, you're going to have to set it to a USB hard drive or to an external drive, something that you have that your instructor said was okay. For me, I'm just putting it on my C drive, but again, verify with your instructor where you're supposed to be saving this. I'm just calling it Server 2008A, just so that the names match. And that's where I want it, that's correct. That's the name of the server I want to have it called, that's correct. I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. Notice maximum disk space is smaller than the Windows 7 one. That's fine, go ahead and leave the defaults unless instructed otherwise. Go ahead and click on Store Virtual Disk as a single file. That's one big file instead of several small files. That helps with performance. Go ahead and click on Next. Let's verify the name, the location. Don't forget we need to customize the hardware. We need to make sure that our network adapter is set to bridge, not NAT. If it says NAT, change it to bridge. We can verify the settings if we would like. For now, we're going to leave the defaults. If you're instructed by your instructor to change it, by all means do so, but for my course, the defaults are fine. I'm going to go ahead and click on Close, and click on Finish. It will start its startup process. Again, anything USB, it will pop up. That's okay. I happen to have a USB hard drive, plus I have a UPS, plus I have a webcam. That's all fine. You might get the software update again. That's fine. Just go ahead and exit out of it. This is where our setup will actually begin. The setup process shouldn't take very long, normally 10-15 minutes, but once this window pops open, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video just so that we don't have to sit here and wait for it to go through its process. But I want to wait until it actually pops up just so that you guys can follow along. It's going to copy the files. It's going to go through all of these steps automatically and then restart. I'm going to stop the video here and I'll pick back up here in a second. The server just finished going through its steps and it just automatically restarted. Now we start the video back up with it restarting. The nice thing with a virtual machine is it doesn't take overly long to create them, but you do have to remember that it does take the resources of the physical computer. So depending on the type of computer you have, it might take a little bit longer. First time we set up the computer, it has to go through its initial phase, which is fine. Here we're going to be completing installation, and once it does this, it might restart a second time. If not, it'll go directly into the operating system. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again because the completing installation can take a minute, 5 minutes, could be a little bit longer. I just don't want to have you guys sit here just waiting. So I'll be right back. Here it is restarting a second time, which should actually be the last time it needed to restart. It should go ahead and go directly into Windows Server. But again, depending on the computer, it could take a little bit longer than this, so you just sadly have to be patient. Second, but just have to bear with it. Once it actually loads into Windows, you should get this initial configuration screen. That's pretty normal, actually. Once you actually log into the server for the first time, there's a few important pieces of information. First, set time zone. Is the time correct? Next should be configuring the network. Make sure the addressing scheme is correct. Verify with your instructor. Really all depends on how the labs are being done, how this needs to be set up. But for bare bone basics, for getting a virtual server up and running, this is what we need. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and exit out, do a soft shutdown of it. And that is initially the bare basics. Notice with server though, you have to leave a comment. The OK is grayed out until you leave a comment. That's just because it's a server and it's not really made to be off. So this way in a year or two, when you check the logs, you can find out why the server was shut down. I'm going to click OK, and again, once the server is done, it should actually close the window.